The trouble with taking matches and lighters is they're very convenient and they do work, there is a place for them, but they have moving parts and they can fail. So we're going to look at how to make a fire in a survival situation. Probably the most versatile skill is a technique called the bow drill. It's the most widely applicable of all the friction techniques, mainly because it uses a mechanical advantage. But also you can use a wide range of woods. I need to make 4 different components. For 2 of them, I've selected a specific type of wood. And this is the wood here. This is lime. Not only is it important for this wood to be the right species, but it also needs to be in the right condition. And as with most things when we're dealing with fire, it needs to be dead and dry. So there are the 2 pieces. Now I'm going to work on these 2 to begin with, because these are the most important components of the set. This part is going to be the drill, and this part here is going to be the hearth. It's going to be the flat board that sits on the ground. So one is going to drill into the other. So I'm gradually turning this round log into a flat board. I need to make it kind of like a miniature floorboard, nice and square. Of course, if you don't have an axe in a survival situation, you can use a knife. You can even improvise that from materials around you. And there's the hearth. And now I'm going to work on the drill. The main thing with the drill is it needs to be perfectly straight. So I've made sure when I selected the wood that I selected the straightest part of the branch. And now all I need to do is just smooth off the bark, ensuring I retain the straightness of the stick. And now I've got quite close to the final diameter of the drill. So now I'm going to swap to the knife because it's more accurate. All the time just checking, making sure that I keep it nice and straight. This is a technique mainly from the northern zones, so the Inuit of Canada and Greenland. Because it's so reliable, even in the worst of storms, you can find fire. Now what I'm doing, I'm just carving off the ridges so I have a nice smooth drill. Now, at the top of the drill, I'm going to carve quite a steep point. There'll be as little wood in contact with the block later on. So the friction will be really reduced. Right on the tip of the drill, just to make it durable, I'm going to put another tiny little bevel on the end. And that just helps keep the integrity of the stick. On the bottom, that's where I'm going to maximize the friction. I'm going to carve that slightly differently. But the aim here is to have quite a shallow point, so as much of the drill is in contact with the hearthboard as possible. There, and that's the drill done. The other 2 parts, one is a bow and one is the bearing block that I can impart downward pressure. For the bearing block, I want to minimize friction there, so I'm going to choose a hard, preferably still living piece of wood. I'm going to take a piece off of here that's about the width of my hand, that's all it needs to be. On the underside, I'm going to carve a little depression, and the top of the drill is going to sit in that depression. So the next piece of the jigsaw is the bow. I'm going to put a string across this, so it's like a bow and arrow basically. We don't want this to be flexible at all, this is stiff. In terms of length, it should be about from your sternum to your fingertips. And I've looked for a branch that had a natural fork at the end here, and so the string can go in there. On the other end, of course, I've been forced to carve a little notch. Onto that, I'm going to put the string. If you didn't have nylon cord as well, you could cut a spiral around the bottom of your trouser leg or use another piece of clothing. There we go, and that's the bow done. I've left a little bit of slack in there, and by the time the drill's in there, it'll be taut. So we're ready to make fire. The first thing I need to do is carve a little depression into the hearthboard, and that's where the drill's going to sit. So let's do it. I take a couple of green leaves and put that in the bearing block there. So it just helps, again, a bit of extra lubrication. Okay, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the entire bottom of the drill to be charred. Now you can see all this black dust that's been produced around the edge. That is the dust that's going to form itself into an ember, and it's with that ember that I'll use to make flames. I need that powder to collect into one place. So for that, I need to cut a notch. It's like cutting a slice out of a cake, basically. Cut a notch right into the middle of that charred hole. The other thing I collected is some tinder. Just any dry material is good for this. I can then put the ember into that and blow it into life. And now I'm watching the notch as it fills up with that dark powder. And when I see the notch full, and if I see smoke coming from within the powder, I know it's time to stop. So now I just watch that pile, and I can see it smoking really nicely on its own, which is a good sign. Use a little stick just to support the top of that pile of powder, and I can gently bring the hearth away. And there it is. So now I can just make sure my tinder is 100% ready to go. What I usually do is just push my thumbs in, so I make a little bit of a bird's nest like that. And when I see the ember glowing orange, as it is there, then I know it's the time to transfer it to the tinder. You do that quite gently, and then we just wrap it up. You can be quite hard with it, and gently blow. And then as it burns, just turn the bundle upside down. And of course, in a real survival situation, I'd have my kindling, my next stage of fuel, ready to go. And away it goes. So that's how you make a fire in a survival situation.